too. So this block of type here, we'll unpack it in a little bit. But the key factor, the key piece of this is actually privacy. So here in the class, since we have a class, anybody want to give me a definition of privacy? What is it? Don't say silent all at once. There's one back there. Not having to what?
Not having to disclose what you're doing.
Not having to disclose what you're doing. Any others? This isn't an important part of it. I want to make a point about privacy over here. The right to control information related to yourself. That's good. That's good. The thing is, I noticed that we're all wearing privacy tech. We have clothing. This is privacy tech we worked out thousands of years ago. We use it, among other things, not just to signal things about ourselves, but to cover our privates. We call them our privates. They're parts of ourselves we don't wish to disclose to the world. And privacy here in the natural world is not very controversial. We don't go around thinking, geez, people are stealing all kinds of stuff about us, because we worked it out. We worked it out a long time ago. And customs change when my father, because he was born in 1908, but all the old pictures of him swimming, he had a top. All guys wore tops on their swim trunks back in the 30s and 40s. That women didn't have bikinis until the 60s, and now they're common. In a similar way, we're going through kind of a negotiation of customs now, like, do we hug that person or do we shake their hands? A few years ago, we shook their hands. Everybody wants to hug each other. This is kind of a new thing. But the important thing about this, though, is that we understand privacy like we understand everything at a tacit level. The tacit is what we know but can't fully explain. What we explain is explicit, but the tacit is 99.x% of everything we know. And in the natural world, this is very easily and well understood. In the digital world, it isn't yet. So I want to, and I hope this works, I hope the speakers work on this, because I want to show you a video. Let's see if it works. Here we'll find out. See if I click on, just hit enter, I guess will work. No, I have to poke the thing. Okay, can I poke it? Can that? You're poking. Am I close? Yeah. Oh, there we are, okay. It's hard to tell sideways.
Så skal jeg lige bede om de sidste 5 sms'er, du har sendt.
Det skal I ikke.
Nej.
Nej. Nej. Jeg sendte det til min søster.
Ja, hvad er søsterens nummer?
Jeg vil ikke udgive hendes telefonnummer til nogen. Det lover jeg.
You can probably understand some of this.
Det er ikke nogen uden tilladelse.
Og så kan jeg lige høre, hvor du var i går kl. 8. Hos mine forældre. Har du deres telefonnummer samtidig? Hej, jeg går bare lige med jer. Nå, okay. Det her. Nå, vi skal derover. Ja, så er det bare det. Kroner, og så skal jeg lige bede om det telefonnummer. Hvorfor det? Nå, det er helt standard herinde, for at give dig en bedre service. Så skal jeg bede om din e-mailadresse i stedet. Det her er det. Jeg vil bare gerne have en bølle. Bare lige høre, hvor du var henne i går kl. 8.
So that was, see if we go down. Is it going to go down? Okay, it does not advance. We may have to drop out of it and come back on. Okay, teacher, what do we do now? Okay. We got stuck. Okay. Okay, now we go one down. Aha! We're here. Okay. So, so what's going on there is that we're living in two worlds at the same time. And one world, this one, the physical world we're in, has been around for 4.65 billion years. And we've had civilization on that for thousands of years. And it's all very well developed. And we understand it very well, especially at the tacit level I was talking about before. And we have this other world, which is a digital world. How many of you are on your phones besides ESOC right now? A lot of us probably, we wouldn't admit it. But we live with these things. They're extensions of ourselves. And this digital world is maybe 30 years old at the most. Okay, really since April 30th of 1995. I could give you the reasons for that, but it doesn't matter. What matters more is that it's new, and it will be with us not just for decades more, but probably for millennia more. And it's not civilized. This is not a civilized place. And we could see the contrast in that bakery shop. That was released, I think, in 2014. So that's almost 12 years ago. And it's worse now than it was then. We're shedding much more data than we were before. Your car, if it's a late model car, has a camera that's watching you. It has a microphone, the same one you use to talk on the phone, that's listening to everything you're saying. It's sharing it. It's looking at what you're doing as a driver. It's sharing that. When you buy a new Toyota or whatever it is, you sign something in the deep pile of papers that says you're giving up all kinds of information about yourself, as a matter of course. Because we haven't civilized this place yet. There's a sort of an iron law of technology that says what can be done will be done until we see what's wrong with it and we'll stop doing it and do something else. We did this with nuclear power, did it with electricity, did it with lots of things. We have to do it with data. We have to do it with what's going on with ourselves, and that's what we're here for. But this is a new world, and we're just starting to terraform it, and that's the key thing. So I want to tell you a little bit more about how the internet came to be and what matters about it. The technology of it doesn't. In fact, there's no tech in TCP/IP. TCP/IP is the rules, the protocol on which everything on the internet takes place. And the geeks that came up with it, the transmission control protocol in '74 and the internet protocol in '80, which basically gave addresses to the first one. There were all these networks in the world, all the phone companies, British Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, France Telecom, AT&T here in the US, all of them were either run by governments or by giant corporations that wanted to control everything. On top of that, every business, every university, they all had local area networks. All of them were run in different ways. It was very hard to make them all work together. You couldn't have some Uber thing that was going to tell them all how to work. But the geeks came along and said, you know what, here's what matters here. Everything is an end. Everything's an endpoint. And if you've got a computer here, he's got a computer over there, or there's a company there and they've got a computer that serves up whatever they've got, those are just endpoints. And that's where the smarts are. The smarts are at the ends. So let's put nothing in the middle other than a rule. And the rule says, a best effort will be made to move datagrams, packets, packetized data, over any network in between, any path it can find. It doesn't matter which one. And by the way, anybody on those paths doesn't check what's in there. They're just passing it through. It's the post office. They're not opening the mail. They're just passing this from point to point. In fact, they described it as a kind of post office, but less complicated than the post office. Just like you've already got networks already, just use this protocol. It's going to make it easy. And if it were up to those guys, if it were up to AT&T and Deutsche Telekom and the rest, they would have said, no way at all. But what happened was that was too useful. TCP/IP was too useful not to use. And it took on so fast and so well that in the long run, they don't even charge each other. So how can we pay for that? How can we? We'll just all peer. That's what they decided to do. We're just going to peer. We're not going to charge each other anything. We're just going to all pass the packets around. So that's the first protocol. The second protocol is one we're all a bit more familiar with. Oh, and the main point about this, by the way, is when we talk about the internet, it's easy to think, well, the internet here is provided by Indiana University, or when we're home, it's provided by Spectrum or Xfinity or Gigabit Now, which is a new one here in town. But it's not. Those are just sub-networks inside the overall thing that runs on TCP/IP. And it's not reducible to what they're doing. So the second one is HTTP. And this was created by Sir Tim Berners-Lee when he was working for CERN, which is a high-energy physics outfit in Switzerland. And all he was trying to do was find a way for documents to be shared at any distance over a network, starting at CERN. Scientist A wants to share a document with scientist B. How could he do that easily? And Tim thought of this other thing, like he really liked hypertext, and hypertext is already a developed idea. That is, hey, there's a link. You put an underline or a color on this one, and if you click on it, it brings up a document somewhere else. But it was all about document sharing. It worked out sharing. Now, he came up with that in 1989, and in 1993 was when the CERN said, you know what, we don't want to keep intellectual property rights in this. World, you can have it. And 2 years later, the only network within the internet that forbid commercial activity shut down and commercial activity exploded. And by the way, one of the best books written about this, and I brought some with me, is this one. He's not here today, but Forks in the Digital Road by Scott Shackelford and a friend of ours, Scott Bradner. Scott Bradner had the best email address I know. His name is Scott O. Bradner, and he was in charge of all IT or the internet stuff for Harvard. And so his email address is sob@harvard.edu. So that was Scott, and he co-wrote that with him. So these are foundational protocols that gave us the internet we have today. Most of the internet we understand sits on both of these things, generally at least the first one, and to document and all the video we see and the rest of it, the second one. But as I said, the internet's not civilized. That this digital world we're building isn't civilized yet. Civilization starts with privacy. It starts with respect for each other. So what can we do for that? So we have one here, and that's what I'm here to tell you about. It's MyTerms. 2026, it'll be released in January 20th, I think, maybe the 22nd, I don't know, one of those, in time for Privacy Week in Europe. That's what it's slated for right now. We've been working on it. There's a working group with the IEEE, which is this big, august standards body. And baking this thing has taken 8 years. It really should have taken about a few months, but that's how those kind of things go. So here's what MyTerms says. And it's like an 80-page document that's going to come out, and it's going to be a published thing. And people are going to scrutinize it and say, how does this work? But I'm going to tell you how it works. This is all it's going to say. It's going to say, first, persons are the first parties. Now, when you go online and you click on a consent, like a cookie notice comes up, and you say, oh, I can't consent, or I go when I work stuff out, you're the second party. You're not the first party. You're the second party. We're switching that around. You are the first party. You're the one in charge of your life. You're the one in charge of how you should be understood online. So you're the first party. And you, the persons, proffer terms as contracts to sites and services, which are the second parties. Now, what you have with consents, there's a regulation in Europe called the GDPR, the General Data Privacy Regulation, which is one of the reasons we have cookie notices everywhere. We're not in Europe, but we see cookie notices. And you see another one that says, please don't sell my personal data. The selling one comes from California. We're not in California. You'll see it anyway because they just put it on there. Those are called consents. And consents are just like, yeah, you agree to this. We have no record of this. This absolutely and completely and radically does not work and hasn't worked for a long time, and everybody knows it. This can work. So they're contracts. Contracts are an interesting thing I learned about contracts when I was at but not in a law school, just hanging out at one, is that I was in it in a sort of physical sense. Like, geez, I'm in a PhD program in the Ferguson building, right? Different than being in trouble, right? But anyway, you could do that anyhow. But contracts are laws that we make among ourselves. They've been around as long as we've had civilization. If I, rent a wheelbarrow from you, I give you $40 as a deposit on the wheelbarrow. If I bring it back damaged, I lose the $40. We have a little agreement, we sign it. Consents are, I mean, not consents, but contracts are different than consents in the sense that they are enforceable. The rule of law applies to them. That it's an agreement two people made with each other as equals. It has to be good for both parties. The third is both parties interact through agents. They could be as simple as a browser and a web server add-on. Browser add-ons are not hard to design. Same with server add-ons. If you're on WordPress, there are all kinds of add-ons you could do on WordPress. But it can also be AI agents. There are already people working on AI agents for doing this. And the AI agent for you, for example, has, okay, what are all my finances, my health, my property, my contacts, my calendar, all that. That's personal stuff that shouldn't escape your control. You should have your own AI for that. That's a whole other lecture I could go into, but anyway. And this is a big innovation with this, which of course is copied from another one, which I'll tell you in a second. But terms are chosen from a collection of standard form agreements in a roster kept by an independent and neutral nonprofit entity. We had one of those already. I'll visit that in a couple minutes. But the idea here is that, no, you don't go onto a website or you don't connect with a service, a utility or something and say, let's go over my terms. No, you have a standard one. You say, here's what I want. Here's what you're going to respect. Here's what I'll do for you. And they're simple. They should all be simple. And matching records of agreements are kept by both sides in forms that can easily be retrieved, audited, or disputed. And finally, if the second party, which is a site or a service, fails to agree, a record can be kept by the first party. In other words, you go from site to site to site, and you've got something in your browser, and on your browser, in the toolbar at the top, among the other things you've got collected there's something that says, oh, this one accepts my terms. Cool, great, we click on that, and negotiation happens. Your agent takes care of that. Or if it doesn't, you see that. You can still sort of advertise to these sites that you have your terms. But once this takes off, we can shame the ones that are not agreeing, and why. So we can socialize that. So the first party should be able to keep a record of that. And this is our model, Creative Commons. Familiar with Creative Commons? Anybody here? A few? Okay, good. Creative Commons was created early in the aughts by Larry Lessig, who's a law professor, and Aaron Swartz, who is a really smart, cool guy, now gone, sadly. But the idea was, why should our only choice with copyright be all rights reserved? I mean, we've had that for a long time. What if you have artistic work, you want to share it, but you want to control the degree to which you share it? So that's the roster they came up with. There are symbols for different things, like this is non-commercial use. Share alike is SA. Buy means I only want attribution. And just as importantly, there's the human readable part of this is what you see there. People take a look at it. I know what that means. Legal code, because there needs to be legalese with it. And machine readable. Now,
audio online dropped. If you could speak a little louder.
Say that.
Speak a little louder. You lost audio online.
Okay. Okay, just keep going.
Or use the handheld.
I could do both. I use the handheld. Oh, the audio dropped in the room.
Audio dropped online.
Oh, online too. Okay, I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, it's because I think you keep moving your head.
Oh, okay. Do I double up if I do this? I guess so.
They can hear you now.
Okay. All right. There's Carrie telling me. I'm on a short leash with Carrie. She's already seen this and approved. Okay. So just to repeat, you've got these three kinds of. So the machine readable is what we address this standard to. And actually, all that makes it machine readable is that you can point to one of these terms. So that was our simple model for this, Creative Commons. And I have some experience with this, with photography. I do a lot of photography. And all my photographs, there are the better part of 100,000 of them online, are Creative Commons licensed with this license, which is CC BY, which means it says photo by Doc Searles. And because I put them out there, and people can pick them up and they can put them out somewhere, and they put my credit line with it, but they're essentially free, and if you need to use one in somewhere, you can just use it. But over 5,000 of those are in Wikimedia Commons, and most of those, or a lot of those, and sometimes many copies of those, are in Wikipedia, because Wikimedia Commons is the staging site for Wikipedia. And I've not put any of them there. I just put this out there. But it's been instructive for me because, wait, we have a roster there. I chose part of it. It's working really well for me, and so it's cool. So a little bit of quick history about where this came from and what gets us to where we are exactly today. And how long sometimes things take. And it'll probably take a lot longer now, but we'll see. First thing is, in 2006, I got a fellowship at the Berkman Center at Harvard. It's now called the Berkman Klein Center. And I was obliged to create a project. And so I created this project, Project VRM. And the purpose of it was to prove that free customers are more valuable than captive ones. Now, it's important to understand that marketing, in which I spent some of my life, too much of it, if you listen to marketers talking about you, talk about a customer, talk to marketers at, say, CVS or Kroger or some other place, their ideal is a captive customer. They will speak of you this way. You are targets to acquire and control and manage and lock in and then shunt through a funnel. They talk about the sales funnel, which is, by the way, the language of animal husbandry and slavery. And that's how marketing tends to talk about us. And we wanted to prove that free customers are more valuable than captive ones. And we wanted to do it we came up with this term VRM, vendor relationship management, which is, in business, there's like a multi-hundred-billion-dollar business called customer relationship management, which is the one that spams you with crap and all that. But it does more than that. But they don't really know you. And we thought it should have a hand to shake, and that should be VRM. So that was the idea there. And VRM should give customers tools and services for two things. One is independence, and the other is engagement. And with VRM, you should be able to control your data and how it's used. And again, now these slides that I'm using here, I actually lifted from a presentation that was given in 2012. Just moved them over. That's how long it's taken, some of this stuff. With VRM, you should set your own policies. And this, again, was from 2012. Don't track me outside your site or service. Give me my data in a usable form I specify. Wipe my data when I say so. Here's my agent who represents me. And also this, you can manage many relationships your own way. Say you move. I mean, right now, because we live in what I call the internet of nothing but accounts, you have to go separately. Here's United Airlines, here's Kroger, here's the university, all the others. And you have to do it one at a time, because they want scale across you. You don't have scale across them. So we wanted to have scale across as many companies as possible. So that's the third idea. And then this idea of intent casting. The idea there is what Scott Adams actually called broadcast shopping, same thing. Where you advertise what you want. I need a stroller for twins downtown in the next 3 hours who's coming through. So that was the idea behind that. And do it safely and securely. So that was that. So Project VRM is where this started back then. So the next thing that happened, so the idea for MyTerms, as you saw in those slides, was already around. It didn't have that name yet. It didn't have that name until a little while ago, actually. But I wrote this book called The Intention Economy. I've got one in a pile over here in our syllabus. In 2012, that was reporting on progress so far with this. And what happened after that was that we created Customer Commons as a place for that roster to live. And then the IEEE came to us in 2017 and said, hey, you need a machine-readable version of this. And then we started work on the standard, which became MyTerms. But in the meantime, Tim Berners-Lee, he's on the left there, he invented the web, HTTP, as I was showing you earlier. He read The Intention Economy. In his book, which I've also got in the stack here, Chapter 17 is called The Intention Economy. He credits me in that very kindly, and we know him, and he likes this. But anyway, that's a frame from one of the many talks he gave promoting his new book. So already that's there and kind of supporting us. And way back when after he read the book, he started Solid, which is a development project for your personal data and where it lives, and Inrupt, which is a commercial company to help make that happen. And then all these other parties have also showed up, and I'm not going to go into all of them. Probably the one you might recognize the most is Consumer Reports. My Data is an organization in Europe that matters. Kwai is a personal AI. They were also inspired by the book, which, by the way, was a worst seller. I had an earlier bestseller, but this is a worst seller, but the right people read it, which is good. So this is not an organization. This is a conversation. And if I could point that little arrow in all those places at once, it'd say that. So in some ways, I'm recruiting you guys to this conversation now, because this is a moment. This is a moment before a new standard that's going to matter hits the streets and makes a difference. So where are we aiming this? We're aiming at first, so well, a very large percentage of the web, at least, is served up by an open source server software called WordPress. And this percentage, 30.4% of it, have no ads. These are the websites and services that don't need to put a cookie notice up, never needed to put a cookie notice up. And we want to go after them first. We don't want to go after the big guys. We don't want to scare the dinosaurs with a meteor. But we're riding a meteor here. So let's ride a meteor to people who will say, that's cool, I don't have to put a cookie notice on. Great. Oh, well, accept terms. Awesome. We're good. So MyTerms will be great for business. For these reasons, customers with full agency will be more valuable than captive ones. There could be a new category. This is just part of it. I've got like 7 more slides here we could go into if we wanted to, but this kind of compresses them. Agreement tech. There should be technology for doing this. Let's make some. New business for consent management platforms, the ones giving you cookie notices now. They can have a new business where they put MyTerms on there, say, accept MyTerms, great, we're good. Better signaling between demand and supply. There's a piece I've written several times out there called Market Intelligence that flows both ways. Joyce and I just built, or Joyce did, a new house that we live in. And we have all kinds of new appliances and equipment and so forth. It'd be great to tell the companies making those things, like we had to have a guy come out and tell us how to operate the stove. I mean, and because it's black on black, and where do you click on a little thing to make it wake up because there's a piece of something on there. There's a lot, our washer and dryer, there are little things about them we'd like to tell them about. We can help them improve their products if we have actual relationships. Genuine rather than coerced relationships, because what we have now, like, I was going to show you my car keys, but Joyce has them. But I have a CVS tag on there, and I've got a Kroger tag on there. Those are coerced relationships. It's really kind of a pain in the butt that you have to put your phone number in or scan something every time you go into CVS. They don't even need that. But we can have real loyalty between customers and companies. And death to the surveillance ecosystem. It's not an ecosystem, it's a ficosystem. And I just threw that word out there a couple of weeks ago, and a bunch of people come back and say, yeah, it's a ficosystem, let's kill it. So I'm using it there. So there we are, we're at Q&A. There we go. Did I make it under half an hour? Not bad, about half an hour.
Can we borrow the microphone? All right. There's a question online, and then I'll see if somebody has,
cool.
has them in class. First question online from Greg. Originally was the way he framed it was, are we assuming that individual people go through all of this negotiation on their own behalf, i.e. are the users going about their business? And then the second, you should click away from whatever has popped up.
I have no idea.
The second is that it seems like this hinges on users' personal responsibility to understand risks, articulate their own preferences, and manage fine-grained controls. Is that expectation feasible?
That's not the expectation at all. I don't know if you can hear me or not. No, this is why we're using we're going to have very few of these contracts, and they're all standard form. And the most basic one says service only. When you walk into a store, like there's the luggage store on the corner of Kirkwood and Walnut, okay, or it was College. You're walking in there, and you're not expecting to walk out covered in tracking beacons. You're just going to look at luggage. They sell cigars too. You talk to the guy about cigars. But that's service only. And when you go to a website, you're expecting the service that's at the website. You're expecting them to show you a document. You're expecting the university or whatever to show you a class. You're going to a retailer. You're going to the utility, whatever it is. Service only says, just give me what you've got there. And it doesn't say, don't show me ads. It doesn't say a lot of other things, but just provide the service. But that's a baseline. Now there are, and I'm not showing you the whole chart that we have because it keeps changing. We're working on these right now. But there are ones for, yes, you can use my data for these things. Yes, you can actually use it to improve your services or something else like that. But the idea is not that you're going to negotiate anything. No negotiation here. It's actually built on what are the expectations and what are the bonuses we can give back to them. Okay, look, you could have one that says, and you could make this global, yes, you can use data anonymously for training AI. You want to train AI? Great, you can train AI. If you want to share data for good, this is a big thing in Europe. I want to share data for good, again, anonymously. But there's not many variables, just like there aren't many variables in the Creative Commons licenses, just a few. So no negotiations are involved. As for the risks, there is no risk. You just have, you walk, I mean, we have these terms in the vernacular of the everyday world. We don't expect to be spied on all the time. And that's basically the message that we're sending out. Hi, I'm a person who doesn't like to be spied on, but I do like to engage. So let's engage. Here's a baseline. The whole idea is that, not the whole idea, one of the main ideas is that let's level up where, hey, I'm operating a full agency, you're operating a full agency, you provide a service, I provide a customer, I provide a visitor, one of those two things. I'm using your app, I don't want to be followed. Right now, Apple's trying to carry the burden of this with the iPhone and with your Apple devices. And if you ever notice, Apple runs ads on this, and they show the, flying spy cameras going around, they're blowing up the spy cameras. And they're doing it with a button. And that button says either you can set it globally on your iPhone to refuse tracking, or you can set it on a site-by-site basis. What it says, though, and this is important, it says, ask app not to track.
Right.
Not tell it not to track, not prevent it from tracking, but ask app not to track. If you have a contract with the other party that you're not going to track me, and I find out, we can have a dispute, right? And we can audit it. Your hand is up back there.
Let me get the microphone for you. Who had their hand up?
Yeah, I don't. Well, thank you so much for this talk. I guess I'm a little, apologies, I'm still a little confused. So this is a standard, isn't it? It's a contract that, how is it to be implemented? Is it an extension that we add to our browser that is going to automatically respond? And I have a follow-up question after if you explain that briefly.
Okay, maybe if I do this, you can hear me. This work? Okay.
Put it on your clicker a little higher.
I'll just hold it up like this. That's easier. It's interesting that you said how you respond. This is not something that's on websites to begin with. It's not like cookie notices we have now, where you're always the one responding. They're responding to you. You'll have something in your browser, for example, if you're using a browser. It can also work with apps, but browser is the easiest way to talk about it. You have an add-on in the browser, or an extension, depending on which browser you use. They'll use one of those terms. And it will have something in the Chrome of your browser, not the Google Chrome, but the top part of the browser, the menu bar, that may have, for example, actually, you know what? I could possibly even, I don't know if I have it. Let's just see if I can advance that. It's not advancing now. Very good. Well, yeah, I can explain it. Yeah, I have examples of a browser thing that shows two symbols. One symbol is your side, and it'll say, you click on it, and it will show whatever your preferred term is as you're going around the web. So let's say it's what's called SD-based. It's services only. I'm going from one to the other. I'm wanting services only. And when you go to a site, the other one will light up saying either, oh, yeah, I'll accept that, or it won't, or it can also indicate state. Let's say they've already agreed. Okay, let's say It's the university, okay? I go to the university site, it's already lit up. We know they're agreeing to your terms, and your terms say, I'm just getting what you give me and nothing more than that. But you can watch state on both of those. And the way that it's written right now is it leaves it open. We don't have tech. We don't want tech yet. We want people to invent the tech. Now, there are people working on parts of this already, but it's wide open. So it can be whatever anybody wants to build. Okay, follow-up question.
Yeah, so it's going to be, there's not a currently an idea of how this is going to be implemented?
I'll tell you my idea for implementation, okay? Somebody, will work with WordPress, so they'll do the thing on the, or some third party that works with WordPress. There are thousands of them that make server add-ons, okay? So a site can be ready to accept your terms. Or there's a provision of it that says, we don't want that one, but we'll accept this other one. And that's the only one other choice that can be done. But on our side, somebody needs to make browser extensions. Now, we can have a race. Who's going to be first? Is it going to be Brave? We know the guy that runs that. Is it going to be Firefox? We know the people there. Is it going to be Chrome or Edge here or any of the others? Hopefully there'll be a race to who's going to do it first.
Sorry, can I ask my follow-up question?
Sure, keep going.
So you were saying that this is something that is good for business. My understanding of how we understand kind of the politics of privacy online right now in terms of the economy is through understanding that we are in like a surveillance capitalist model.
Yep, totally.
So in my, I'm curious what would it, if we understand that online business models necessitates utilizing our raw data or the behavioral data to turn our information into like a commodity to be consumed. Butchering how Shoshana Zuboff explains that way more eloquently than I am. But
yeah.
How it feels as if it's anything that is trying to reject how large corporations exploit our information is to do anything that resists that is antithetical to these business models. So how would this be beneficial to business models when we live in a surveillance capitalist system?
Well, the system is not complete. So first of all, yeah, it's a FICO system. It's bad. We're totally screwed in a lot of ways. But it's not final. The internet is still new. That's my first point here. It's still new. Look at Google. Google rules the world. And along comes ChatGPT. Google already had it all worked out. They were way ahead of everybody on AI. ChatGPT comes along and eats their lunch, right? And now Google's struggling to catch up with search. In the meantime, ChatGPT's ahead. And it's early in all of that stuff, and it may be a bubble, it may crash. Here's one of the main things. I'll probably think of more. But one of them is, two things. First, Shoshana Zuboff spoke in this series before. You can go back and look at what she had to say. We had her here for that. And Eli Pariser is coming, and he wrote a book in 2011 called The Filter Bubble. That's all about this. And he had a one-liner in there, and he's going to speak in one of the upcoming this series in this room. He said all of this stuff is based on a bad theory of you. Here's the theory of you. We can know you better than you know yourself. We'll collect all this data about you. We have all this kind of information. We can do everything because we have all this data. Okay, this is so easily disproven. Okay, so I've been shopping on Amazon thousands of dollars a year since 1995. They haven't got a clue about anything about me. They'll show me the last thing I bought. I bought page flags, I bought toilet paper, I bought some other thing. I'm going to want more of that? No, I already bought it. I mean, you go to CVS and they give you the 6-foot receipt for stuff that you've already bought, that have all these conditions in it. It's all based on a bad theory of you. And the good theory of you is that you're a customer. You actually have more to bring to the table than your money and your data that they can follow you around with. You can have a much better relationship with them as an independent customer than as a data slave that they imagine that you are. That's the bad theory of you. And we need to disprove that. Now, we can't do it by going straight after Google. It's not going to happen. We can't do it by going straight after Facebook. Facebook's going to be hard because Facebook's really, really good at what they do. You know, you're going to get really good ads from Facebook, you know, based on them knowing you too well. They're a bad example, but all of the other sites, they're making a little bit of money. All the publishers, name a publisher, one I took out of the slide deck here was Rolling Stone. They have well over 2,000 articles about privacy. But you go to look at their site with something called Page X-Ray. There are hundreds and hundreds of cookies and tracking beacons and stuff they're shoving into your browser. And that data is going out to thousands of other parties. And they're all guessing at you as they're loading the ads onto there. And they all suck. Okay, they're paying for that, but the whole system kind of sucks. There's a better system out there. We're not there yet. As for being threatened, look at TCP/IP. All of the big phone companies would never have invented the internet. TCP/IP came along and the internet happened. We want something like that to happen with this too. It's a long shot. We'll see if it works.
Okay, so a follow-up on that question, and sort of putting a couple of questions online together. One of them, Doc, VRM, and this is from Detlef. VRM was a great concept 10 years ago, but it did not take off. MyTerms is a great concept today. How will it take off this time? And then sort of a similar vein is thinking about the comparison with what's being proposed with GPC.
Okay, so there are three things there. First of all, you know, it turns out we needed a lot longer runway. You know, I mean, TCP/IP was invented in, what, 73, you know, and, you know, IP was invented in 80, HTTP in 89. These things take time, and then all of a sudden they explode. You know, we're hoping this is something to detonate something. We don't know. An interesting thing about did VRM take off or not? We have all these people working on it. We've had people working for 8 years on this standard because Project VRM was created. So, and there's a business there. There's a business in making VRM tools for you and me. Somebody wants to take it up, it's great. The ideas are still laying out there.
Well, so then Michael asks, what's the tipping point for MyTerms that makes corporations, which is I think a very similar question to what was asked, what's the tipping point for MyTerms that makes corporations start accommodating and accepting the terms versus ignoring customers who propose terms? How do you get some big players like Walmart, Amazon, Netflix to say yes to all customers who have at least a good subset of options? This sounds terrific if it can get past the mass threshold.
We don't go straight at the gatekeepers. There's a lot of room out there around them. That's why I showed this slide about the, you know, several 100 million sites maybe that don't operate that way. We don't want to go after Walmart and Google and the other ones. They're not the whole world. There are lots and lots of businesses all over the world, in India, in Eastern Europe, all over the place that aren't necessarily part of the ad tech ecosystem. Some of them may make some money off of it. Like I mentioned, the publishers, you know, they feel like they can't get along without it right now. So they have all these crap ads that run you. You read the story about ChatGPT or something, you get to the bottom of it, and there are 15 crap ads for things that are just pure clickbait. And by the way, are there only to gather up more data about you. It's just terrible. I mean, the fact is it's a terrible system. And that it's like $1 trillion system that Google gets most of doesn't make it right. Okay?
I don't think anybody's debating that.
Yeah, saying, it's like, okay, here's a tipping point. When is the bubble going to burst? Okay, there's a bubble right now with AI. It's going to burst. We knew there was a bubble with, we didn't know, a few people knew about the subprime mortgage in 2008, but there are several people that bet on it, they knew it was going to burst. The dot-com crash that happened in 2000, roughly. We don't know when the tipping point comes. I do know we're not going to get anywhere if we start with the bigs. We can't do that. We have to start with other parties. And Joyce has an answer.
No, I just want to add something.
Oh, okay.
Finish your point.
It's done. Hand it.
I just want to add one thing to this tipping point question. And that is that there's advantage. If you're a business, there's some short-term advantage. That's what they're going to look at, not the long, this is the right thing to do. That probably won't be the first thing they look at. But if, particularly in Europe, which is one of the places that we're really focused on, is there is so much regulation that is against surveillance that this is the type of thing that the regulators can say, ah, we like that. And then companies that want to comply. And your question about what about the businesses who that's what they live for, I don't think that there's so many more businesses that don't just live for our data and they're creating new businesses out of our data. That is a new business category altogether. How do you make money with our data? But there's plenty of other businesses that don't have that. And that's who we think will be able to take it. And then I think if you got like 20 to 30% of businesses that would accept this, then there'll start to be a drumbeat out there where a lot of more and more will be attracted to it. So there's this short-term win for businesses, particularly in Europe, to the advantage of having regulation and compliance taken care of for them. Because contract is one of the 6 points of GDPR, how you can comply with consent. Consent doesn't scale, but contract could scale because you actually have on both sides an audit, so you can know if the company has done it or hasn't done it.
Yeah, and Joyce is making a really critical point there about Europe. Okay, we're in the U.S. here, and in some ways the U.S. is hopeless. Our consciousness of privacy here is not as well developed as it is in Europe. In Europe, the concept of privacy is extremely developed because lots of personal information about people was collected in the 30s and was used to kill them. And that's still in living memory in Europe. It's a fact that matters. And the GDPR came from Europe, and what she was talking about, there are 6 legitimate reasons for processing data. In the GDPR, there are 3 entities. There's the data subject, which is you and me, which they call a natural person. There's the data processor, who's using the data as a data controller. And the person can also be the data controller. It doesn't have to be also only an intermediary or a third party. And they list 6 legitimate reasons. And the first one is consent. It's been tried and failed. The second is contract. And so we're working on that. And Joyce just got back from France, and Carrie, in fact, is in the UK. And there's lots and lots of action going on over there. And I can't tell you how much press interest is showing up now as well. The word of this is starting to leak out. We haven't pressed it that hard. There aren't many of us. There's a handful of people working on this. And now we're kind of going public with it. But it's too appealing. It's like, I mean, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, it'll never work because we have surveillance capitalism and we're screwed already and it's done. Well, fine. I'll mark you down as doubtful, but the rest of us, I got that from George W. Bush. I'm not kidding. He was on a talk show 1,000 years ago when he was the president. That's how far back it was. And it was a call-in talk show. And this guy just ranted on him, just all over the place. The wars, the this and that. And Bush said, well, fella, I'll mark you down as doubtful. So, go ahead. Yeah.
So, if MyTerms shows up as something where if a website doesn't have it doesn't have it set up to be accommodated, and you say, okay, MyTerms, then just let this website show the way it normally would.
Yeah.
Then why would a website choose it? Like, obviously, from a compliance perspective, I want to comply with the regulators, a website would be like, okay, this is a good idea to comply with regulators. But those websites would likely be the same ones that are already limiting the amount that they collect your data, already with limited cookies, because they can afford to support MyTerms because they're looking to comply because they don't have anything to lose by complying. So, but since those websites already aren't problematic, why would a user care enough to download MyTerms for just those websites when it's not going to change anything for the websites that they would actually care about it changing?
Okay, let's divide the websites of the world into 2 groups. Group A is participating in the surveillance ecosystem, and Group B is not. Group B is stores and services and the rest of it you know, the plumbing company. We call in a plumber, the plumber's there, the plumber's got a website. It is a badge of, they're not busy collecting data on you. Now, maybe somebody has installed something when they set up the website that's doing some of that, they can knock that off. But if they could do virtue signaling with this. Accepting MyTerms is a virtue signal that websites can send. And I think that's a really critical thing. So I mean, and we're going after them. We're not going after the ones that are already screwed. I mean, it's too hard. And it's beside the point. We'll go around them and we'll, get others. I mean, that's sort of the simple way of putting it.
Question from George follows up on something that you brought up, Joyce. Is there a segment of MyTerms that can assist in the right to be forgotten? Are the designers of the agentic AI thinking about how to transition the agent to the descendants of a person who has passed away?
Whoa. I thought you were going to hand the mic to Joyce. Live people first. Okay, well.
The right to be forgotten first.
Yeah, the right to be forgotten.
Think about that, the
Yeah.
interaction between MyTerms and things like GDPR.
Right.
Like, does that help operationalize some of that?
Right. So the right to be forgotten is big in EU law, and it's problematic for a lot of people there. It's like, how can you remember me to forget me? Right. That's a tough one right there. There's a sort of a logical leap with that. There's nothing that says it can't be built into MyTerms at all. I mean, MyTerms, we've got like 7 people thinking about how to make MyTerms at this point. We're going to need a lot more. We're going to need lawyers. We're going to need others to think through this thing. But to make it simple, but also to include that kind of thing. So that's, and the other one is people working on agentic AI already. Oh my God, the whole world is working on agentic AI. It was a big topic. We had the agentic internet workshop in California the week before last. It followed the internet identity workshop, which Joyce and I, with some other people, co-organized. We've been doing this for 20 years. There are so many people working on this. I mean, it's just.
But I think the question is about the interaction when we create now contacts.
Okay.
And so is there this idea that somebody could I bequeath my agents and as a consequence my terms and so on?
Okay, so there are 2 parts to that. One is fiduciary responsibility. You're handing over to an agentic process, to an AI, fiduciary powers to act on my behalf. That is going to happen. And here's the key thing. It's got to be yours. It can't be a tentacle on, a suction cup on the tentacle of OpenAI or Google or one of the others, where they have access to your data and your life. It has to be independent. Nobody's working on this, or so very few people are working on that. The other is bequeathing it to after we're dead or something like that. Is that wide open? Make something up. I don't know.
Thank you for the presentation. My question is, you know how you mentioned that people or things that are tracking this can only predict things that we already bought or things we already talked about. What if, since these new, like OpenAI is launching or has already launched ChatGPTs like Atlas, like AI browsers, what if AI browsers become so well that they are an ecosystem, so whatever we say, like they could actually predict, and AI becomes extremely well that it could predict what we're going to buy. So what's going to happen then with our privacy?
Several things with that. One is, what's it called? What is OpenAI's one called? Their new browser.
Atlas, I think.
Atlas, yeah. Just in terms of privacy, just in terms of yielding your privacy to this thing, it is a scary piece of shit. Okay, so there's that. Second thing is, it's going to put, yeah, I'm from New Jersey, right? So I talk like that. That's A. B is, it's going to move the web and addresses and all of that farther away. You just get the answers from OpenAI. It's going to give you the answers. You don't need to go into the stacks of the library. The librarian's going to give it to you. And it's very good at doing that already. I use ChatGPT every day. I use Gemini. I use Claude. They're good at what they do. They also have a bad theory of you. They're just taking it a lot farther. They can't know what you're going to buy. You don't know what you're going to buy next, right? And you want to be in charge of that. And if they're busy working for the seller, okay, you're looking at cars, they're being paid by Ford, they're going to route you to Ford stuff, right? They're not, they can become so biased against you if it's an open AI thing. Now, if it's your own browser, nobody's talked about that much. Your browser originally was that. It's just yours. You got it here. It's not a tentacle of Google. It's not busy doing any of that. It's just yours. That to me is a key thing. I mean, part of becoming truly agentic for ourselves is that we maximize our agency. And that's what all MyTerms is about. I'm maximizing my agency by, hey, I'm the first party here. I'm in charge of this. And the second part is when we have agentic AI, it's independent and working for us. So let's say it already knows you have your own personal AI. It's yours. It doesn't belong to any of these giants, okay? It's just yours. It has your finances. It has your calendar. It has your contacts. It has your property. It knows what you've put in storage. Maybe you've already done this. You've got everything you have that you value. Put a QR code on all of it, scan them all, tell them what it is. It goes into there. It may know, you bought that thing, you've got this subscription coming up. Right now, the whole subscription system is rigged, so you're screwed, okay? You're screwed here. Okay, you got SiriusXM. We give you the deal for the first year. It's $12.95. Year goes by, you're getting charged $50. They depend on that. They depend on your forgetting. The whole subscription system is set up to screw you. Okay, so who's OpenAI working for with that? The one with the big money that wants to get deeper into your life? Not for you. Now, they're saying, okay, we're going to start making money by you pay us. You pay us $20 a month like you already are. I'm paying $20 a month. Is that going to amount to more than the insurance company is going to pay them? I don't know. But it's going to be a fight. It's absolutely going to be a fight. And we need everything on our side that we can. And the biggest thing on our side is you can't know me well enough, and you shouldn't know me that well. I need to know myself well. Right now, our data is out of control. It's completely out of control. We have way more data in our lives than we have any way of controlling at all. Our calendar belongs to Google or Apple or Microsoft, right? Not ours. It should be our calendar. Same with all this other stuff. We need to claw back from these companies the stuff that ought to rightfully be ours. Yes?
So, mindful of time, we have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
There's a conversation in the chat that I'm going to add to. I can't find it anymore.
Oh, and hit save chat somewhere.
I will,
okay.
But around the sort of economics here. And so
yeah.
When you start making a contract, somebody sort of ended the conversation by saying something along the lines of, if I were to refuse, then a company may wish to offer me money to change the contract because it's now entering into a negotiation with them. So it's entering into a negotiation. But now, the thing I wanted to add to that conversation, really to triangulate around, is one that we're making is seemingly an assumption that all of these interactions are on a one-to-one basis. So me, actor, with some type of vendor. And first, is that an appropriate assumption? And then two, if it is my individual data that interesting to, or is because it's really about the collective. So again, sort of building this all back around, and this is a multi-pronged question, but going back to this question of tipping points, how do you get mass adoption so that there's a collective, there's a union of people who are requesting these type of things?
Boy, so much there. First, there's something I forgot to mention in this. TCP/IP, HTTP, the internet itself has what we call because effects. You don't make money with it, you make money because of it. The phone companies and the cable companies were opposed to the internet at first, then it happened and they had to be in it and they found, wait a minute, I can make more money doing that. I consulted British Telecom for 6 years to almost no effect, but it was like consulting a pyramid or something. It's not going to change a whole lot. But nonetheless, we came up with J.P. Rangaswamy, who's a good friend, who was the chief scientist there. He and I together came up with this idea of because effects. Open source. So I was the editor, and finally the editor-in-chief of Linux Journal for 24 years. Linux was nowhere when it started, but it was free, and you could use it, and you had no obligations to anybody. And now Linux is in everything. Even your Apple thing is running BSD, which is so similar. It might as well be the same thing. Linux is in your clock, it's in your TV, it's in your brake system. It's everywhere. People are making money because of Linux, not with Linux. We want people to make money because of this. And the tipping, I don't know where the tipping point comes. A bunch of people. Anything could be.
On the user side or the seller side?
Okay, on the seller. Okay, first on the seller side. First, there's virtue signaling that I mentioned before. But second, this can collectivize so many ways. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, the surveillance capitalism is already pre-collectivized in a really creepy way, but we can collectivize it the other way. Like, maybe there's a union of companies that, hey, we all agree to MyTerms. We're in the MyTerms Alliance, or whatever. I mean, there may be any number of organizations that spring up on the seller's side. Hey, wait, we're going to have a conference on this. What are best possible behaviors of companies? How can we change the CRM business? One of our board members is a guy named Nitin Bajadia, and he's with SAP now. He's been with Oracle 3 times. He's been with a lot of these companies. He's writing article after article after article on his Substack about how the CRM business can change and needs to change for the better because the customers are becoming more empowered. A guy named Jamie Smith is a good friend in the UK. Has a Substack that runs. He's also on LinkedIn, talking about customer empowerment and how it's coming. And Nitin and Jamie both talk about how there's going to be better collaboration between customers and companies. Once that gets collectivized as well, which it inevitably will. I mean, this is a hack for individuals, just like you getting a browser was a hack for individuals. You getting an email address. Go ahead. One more. Go.
Round us out, sir. Hi, how you doing? My name's
Good.
Matt. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming and speaking with us today. I had one more point about the inflection point, I guess you could say. So theoretically, if we do implement strong barriers to support our privacy, which I do agree with you on is necessary, couldn't you assume that, say, like the Mag 7 companies would, due to their loss of revenue through selling our data, they would experience a drop, and then that would correspond to data centers. They would probably Mag 7 would lower their budget toward data centers, causing them to drop, and then theoretically energy to drop as well. These are like 3 large sectors of the U.S. economy, I mean, I feel like.
Well, okay, so two things. First of all, Isak, give this guy an A for today because he's taking notes and not falling asleep. Those are second and third order effects, okay? And I don't think, I mean, what's going on with data centers right now with they're being overbuilt, maybe not even overbuilt. If maybe we're going to use them all, it's going to be great. There's one I read today about they want to put some in space because it's getting cheaper to launch them into space. And they're all going to get cooled up there. Who knows? But this is not going to lose anybody any money. Just like the internet didn't lose anybody any money. I mean, AOL lost. AOL lost out. CompuServe lost out. Delphi lost out. Prodigy lost out. Those are all substitutes for the internet before the internet happened. They were right in the path, and they lost. There are lots of companies that, like the phone and cable companies. The cable companies at first were scared of it, and then there was one guy named Milo Medin who said, wait a minute, cable is going to be better at carrying data than the phone companies. We can kill the phone companies by doing internet. And that's what they did. Suddenly the cable companies got into the internet business, which is they never expected to be in, and they did a lot better. The data centers that are going to matter, and Apple is going to win at this, maybe Microsoft will win at this, Apple for sure, if they have a clue at all, which is your data center. You need an NVIDIA chip in a box on your desk. That's going to be running your own AI, because you need an AI. Right now with AI, we're in 1975. It's 50 years ago. All the mainframes, the Mag 7 you were talking about, they run the world. They think they're running the whole thing, just like IBM and Burroughs and Univac and NCR. These are the big companies back then. Control Data, thought they were, Honeywell was the 5th one. Those names are nowhere now. Honeywell is still on your thermostat, but the rest of them, they're gone. And Because why? Personal computing came along. Personal computing was an oxymoron. It was like personal skyscraper in 1975. Personal AI, personal agents on your side that are yours, some are out there, some are coming already. I know a couple of them. So, but Apple would be smart if they, the next Mac Mini that you got had your, hey, suck everything in your life into this thing, and be a better everything, better husband, son, father, customer, whatever.
Perfect way to end.
Okay.
Everybody join me in thanking
Thank you.
ourselves for a wonderful time.